I'm Aaron Jackson, and I'm the sports editor at the East Carolinian.
I'm Ty Gavin, the copy editor.
I'm Chase Carroll, sports chief.
I'm Rob Romero, baseball reporter.
I'm Daniel Roberts, baseball reporter.
This is TECspert.
After a week away, Daniel is back with us to recap the games over break, talk about the midweek clashes against the Virginia Commonwealth University and Elon University, and preview the series this weekend against Maryland and the weekday clash against UNC Wilmington next Tuesday. So first, guys, ECU is number 17 in the country. They're 13-4 over the last 17 games. It's a great start for them this season, but what about those two big losses in the Clark-LeClair Classic?
You know, it's funny how long it seems like it's been since those games, but those games, they came out and really just disappointed, but since then they have come back and really played well. However, I feel like during those first two games of the LeClair Classic, they really came out and they didn't respect their opponents. They came off that big series win against UNC, and really just, felt these two teams were not competition for them, and maybe we're overlooking them to their matchup against College of Charleston. But since then they have regrouped, and I think those games are past them.
Mm-hmm. Robert was actually here the week when you weren't here and highlighted that ECU might come out a little soft. I guess he had a little insider information from being the baseball writer, because they looked super flat in those first two games. They left 8 guys on base against Pepperdine, a team that was only averaging 2 runs, but they held them to 4 runs through most of the game, and then that last inning it just got away from them. Missouri State, Jake Agnos again struggled, got moved out of his weekend role. Now he's a weekday starter. He's still struggling. Hopefully for the Pirates he can get it going, because he is their second best pitcher. No matter what Chris Holt was doing, I think Jake really has that potential. With everyone going on spring break, it was tough. It was tough for them. It was a tough Classic.
I'd say with those two losses, Coach Godwin, basically put it in the best simple words in one quote, talking about the best team wins the game, not the most talented. ECU has proven to have the most talent all across the board, but when it comes down to it and these opponents come in, they are looking to upset ECU no matter what. And since they did not come out prepared, again, in those first 2 games in the LeClair Classic, they ended up falling really bad, but luckily they bounced back against St. Joseph's, and then
9-0 blowout.
Exactly. So you see how ECU can play when prepared and ready.
And to talk about talent, how will ECU deal with the absence of Bryant Packer?
You know, that is a big loss for this ECU team. He's third on the team in batting average at .378. He has 2 home runs on the season, something that ECU has somewhat lacked this season is home run hitters, and he's one of the best on the team. He has 14 hits on the season to go along with 12 RBIs. So he's productive in this lineup, and that's obviously going to be a big loss for the Pirates.
Yeah, there's no way to cut it that this could in any way be a good thing. This is going to hurt the Pirates. They're going to need Jeremy Whitehead to step up, who's a freshman. It's kind of relying on a younger guy, which is going to be tough in the outfield, which coming into the season was probably their strongest suit. They had Dewanye, who is also now not really swinging too much. He's just been a pinch runner. I think the outfield is going to struggle, but I think there's enough talent on this team to figure it out.
I say that definitely Brian Packard will definitely be missed. And like you said, the home run department, ECU has been lacking this season. Spencer Brickhouse does have the most home runs, but his batting average is really low,
.262. So
.262. But he's been struggling on the mound, getting to base. Mm-hmm. You know, his streak of getting to base was at 26, 27 straight games, but that came to an end. But yeah, Brian Packard's impact, along with Turner Brown's impact, and Dewanye will definitely be missed in the lineup.
Those are all 3 guys that Coach Godwin highlighted at Media Day that are all out early this season.
This week was a little bit different for the Pirates. They had 2 weekday clashes, one against VCU and one against Elon. And against VCU, it kind of shocked Pirate fans too a little bit. They lost 3-0 coming off of a series sweep against UNC Charlotte. What did that show from VCU or tell about ECU?
It's unfortunate because Jake Agnos actually pitched pretty well in that game, giving up only 1 earned run in 5.1 innings, which he had been struggling this season. So it's unfortunate to see him get a loss in a game where he actually didn't perform too poorly. But really, the pitching by BC pitcher Michael Daly was enough to keep them off the board, and that's something they got to figure out in these weekday games. Is if you're gonna pitch well, how are you gonna win?
Yeah. I heard from you and Robert that it was super windy out there, and I can kind of get that, but I wasn't at the game, so I'm not sure how much that really impacted them. I found it really strange that in the bottom of the 9th inning, you're down 3-0, and Coach Godwin's a very aggressive guy. He's always trying to bunt and get the guy across, and Brady Lloyd hits a double down the left field line, gets rattled in the corner, and pinch runner Josh Netterville is in, and Godwin's not going to send him. I think that with only 1 out, I think that Godwin should have sent him, put a little pressure on, and if he gets out, I mean, you're basically in the same position because he never got across. So I thought that was weird.
Yeah. Weather did really play an impact in the game because ECU really could not get hits where they normally would. But VCU was able to get key hits down the stretch to secure the 3-0 lead. And like I said, the bullpen did a great job of keeping ECU off base. But like I said before, Turner Brown, like Packard and Dewanye being out really will hurt ECU, and it has so far, and I think it will continue until they get back.
And against Elon, ECU secured a walk-off win in the bottom of the 9th with a hit from Henriksen, and he sent in Dewanye Sutton for the win. How will that carry over heading into the Maryland series?
I feel like it'll carry over just fine. Coming off of a big win where they came off that VCU loss, and you didn't know what was going to come from them.
Because it was another low-scoring game.
Exactly. They hadn't been playing well, and they're in a close game against Elon here, and they have a chance to lose this game at the end, but they come away with a walk-off win, which is big. But this Maryland team has a good hitter in junior infielder Nick Dunn, who I feel like will pose a problem for ECU pitchers. He leads Maryland in just about all of their offensive statistical categories, including hits, RBIs, and home runs. So they're really going to have to watch out for him.
I think that sending Dewanye in to score on the sacrifice fly that was barely out of the infield shows that Godwin is aggressive. I think that what happened on Tuesday was actually he was thinking about it, and I'm glad that he sent them because that resulted in the win. I think the biggest concern for this Maryland series is going to be the ECU hitting. They've only scored 2 runs in the 2 games this week, 3-0 and then a 2-1 win. I mean, there's no production from these bats who are averaging about 10 hits a game in the early part of the season. So with Tyler Blum and Taylor Bloom, sorry, that's hard to get mixed up. I think we're really gonna have to see if the ECU hitters can draw walks and then try to get some hits string together.
And the team trying to figure out like how to play, how to like string together wins, hit the ball, get on base, score runs. This win definitely was a good momentum booster for them. Going into this weekend, it's going to come down to ECU's batting, and I'd say one person who might have a little more pressure on him is Brickhouse to actually get on base or hit a home run, key home runs for ECU.
The problem is he's not going to have that protection now with Dewanye. You can pitch around him now because you don't have all that power that's left in the lineup. With 3 guys that are missing, he doesn't get that protection.
ECU has had to play from behind a lot this year. Do you think that will be a big problem playing from behind in this series or any of the games coming in the rest of the season?
I feel like playing from behind won't be too big of a problem for ECU, considering they do have the batters to. Unlike what we saw against VCU, they do have good batters that can score quickly. They got a lot of guys on the board that will bat in runs. So along with their bullpen has performed a little better. So I feel like playing from behind won't be too bad.
Yeah, the bullpen keeps them in just about every game. In the VCU game, Jake gets off, lets up the runs, and then Brian Ross comes in and shuts it down for the last 3 innings. But I think playing from behind is more of a recent trend. Like, if we think back to the beginning of the season, they basically blew out every team. I think that if these bats can wake up, they can get that early run production and not get in that hole. If they are playing from behind, you got a bullpen to keep you in it, but those bats just need to wake up.
Yeah, playing from behind definitely, I believe, is crucial and will be a problem for ECU because the bullpen against Elon yesterday, they were down 1-0 through like the first 5 innings. And it looked like they were about to hold on and defeat ECU, but the bullpen luckily kept Elon from scoring, and ECU got into scoring position. But playing from behind, especially if you get late into the game, like you get to the 7th, or the 6th, 7th, or the 8th inning, will be a problem, and you can't bounce back, and most likely will end up losing the game, especially with the team not as healthy as they were at the beginning of the season.
And next week in the midweek clash against UNCW, ECU will be on the road on their home turf, and they will have a 5-0 win streak on the road. Do you think that is significant to the Pirates winning, not losing on the road?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously significant. Got to give credit to Coach Godwin and his staff for really bringing his team together to win on the road. Because it's always, no matter where you go on the road, it's always tougher to play than it is at home. So getting your team focused to play in these road games is big.
I don't know if it's too meaningful to them because they haven't really played the highest caliber teams on the road yet. But 5-0, being 5-0 on the road is always nice. Like you said, Godwin wakes their team up. They know how to bounce back from a tough loss. They know how to go on the road and win games. I think they'll be okay against UNCW. They look like they have a loaded lineup, but I expect enough from the Pirates to pull it out.
Yeah, entering UNCW's matchup with a 5-0 road record, they will be more motivated to pull off an upset on UNCW's home turf because, as stated by Chase earlier, that it is tougher no matter where you go, no matter who you play. When you hit the road, it definitely will be tougher.
Pretty much everyone here mentioned that ECU's pitchers got a little bit shaky in some games this year. How will their pitching face against the offensive power of the Seahawks with 4 players hitting over 300?
I feel like our pitching staff will come out and really, I don't know that UNCW's faced pitching like ECU has. So those stats are good, but like I said, they haven't really faced elite pitching. So depending on who we send out there in our weekday clash against them really tells the tale on how we'll do, I think.
Which we can pretty much assume it's going to be Jake Agnos.
Yeah.
But that kind of throws him in the fire. For a guy that's been struggling with walks, now you got to go against 4 guys batting above 300. They've combined for 13 home runs with the team's 18. I mean, that's kind of the bulk of their order. But you get past that, it's not really too threatening. So if Jake can get past the first go-around, maybe get into the second, hopefully he could survive. And then the bullpen has looked electric against just about anybody. So I shouldn't be too concerned.
The whole bullpen for ECU has appeared to be flawless. And if Agnos is to start in that weekday matchup against UNCW, I think it will come with more motivation from him trying to get himself going, trying to get more strikeouts, trying to keep those batters from off of base, scoring runs. I think he'll come more motivated and ready to play and will actually put on the show on the road against UNCW.
Now, changing paces on to predictions. Starting with you, Daniel, how do you have ECU going in the Maryland series and the weekday clash?
I say ECU is going 2-1 over Maryland just because Trey Benton and Chris Hoba have been flawless, on the mound all season long. Excuse me. And depending on who they have pitching, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, depending on when Chris Hoba starts, will determine if ECU can possibly go for the 3-0 sweep. And then against UNCW, I say they end up going 1-0 just because they have proven they can play on the road, and I don't think UNCW poses a big threat to the Pirates right now, even though they have 4 batters batting over the 300 mark.
Tyler, how about you?
So I got the Pirates winning all 4 games until we get to talk about them next. I think Maryland is going to come in as a tough team. They're a Big Ten opponent. They're going to have a really tough conference schedule, so they're non-conference schedule playing teams like ECU, and they're playing a pretty hard schedule. And like you talked about, Nick Dunn looks like a stud. You also have first baseman Kevin Bondic. He's got 14 RBIs. They hit a lot of doubles, but their pitching kind of lets them back into games, or kind of lets other teams back into the games. The pitching staff has given up 14 home runs, and for an ECU team that's struggling, I think that just sounds like meat on the bone. I think that they can go after that, and if without Dewanye and without Packard, it's going to be Brickhouse, and I expect Connor Linton to kind of step it back up. I think that they can go out, score enough runs, like you talked about Holba. I mean, the kid's 4-0 with a .71 ERA. He has to be the pitcher of the conference so far. I expect them to get through that and then to carry that over to go 6-0 onto the road, take care of business against UNCW like they should, and get back here.
Mm-hmm. And Chase?
I actually have ECU winning the series against Maryland 2-1, just as Daniel had stated. Chris Holba and Trey Benton are playing spectacular baseball right now, and I don't see that switching up anytime soon. However, I'm not sure who our third starter, if he's going to actually come out here and solidify his spot. We still don't. We need a solidified third pitcher in our weekend rotation, and not sure we have that yet. So I feel like Nick Dunn will really pose a threat to him, and they'll get one win. And I do feel like we will beat UNCW in our only weekday clash against them. So
I do feel like ECU will do good this weekend against Maryland, but they will lose one. They have been shaky this year at home. I don't know why, but they seem to drop one every now and then in these home series. Against UNC Wilmington, though, I think ECU will continue to be perfect on the road, and they'll be 6-0 heading into the next weeks to come. That's it for TECspert this week. Thank you for watching.